Yeah, they were digging there. Matter of fact, when I came out of high school, I worked at a brickyard for 1 week. And that made me go look for another job because I piled bricks. And my partner who was piling with me was an alcoholic. He used to kind of get the smell would get you after a while. And he carried a bottle on his hip. But there was a lot of people injured and killed at that brickyard. It was not really a safe place to work. But yeah, it was, the bricks would come down a line and you had to take the bricks 2 at a time and put them on it. And the pile them maybe this high. Then they would push that into a kiln to fire the bricks up to make them hard. And you know, you did that for 8 hours a day. And the thing was, if you filled so many carts up, you could go home early. So when we come out of high school, there was a bunch of us that got jobs down there, and we were working. And you would start at 7 on the dot. I mean, the bricks start coming, you had to start. You'd work, say, till 11 o'clock, it would be lunch hour. They gave you 18 minutes to eat. That was the state law. They had to give you 18 minutes. So you ate in 18, now eating, you didn't have time to wash your hands, it had all red dust on it, and that's 18 minutes you ate your sandwich and that, and then you went back because the bricks start coming again, so you had to get there. They just turned them on. And 1 week of that was kind of enough. That kind of did me in. Going back years ago, the old steam shovels, they had like a scoop. They would scoop it up, and then, you know, that's what they had. And then they had the little, they weren't big locomotives, like they were small that pushed the cars in it. And they would load them in a clay banks there, and they would push them up, and they would dump one at a time.
And they would bring them across Main Street then?
It would go across Main Street, and there was like a pit, and they had a car in that pit, so they would bring the cars across, like 4 or 5 cars, and then they would back one car up, and then the guys would push it over and dump all that clay into the car that's there. Then a pulley would pull that car up to the top and dump it. And there would always be clay that would fall off, so somebody had to go down in that pit to clean that clay. And there was a couple of people killed because the car let go on top and crushed the guy on the bottom. And I was like deathly afraid of that when I was a kid. I used to walk by and look at that and say, boy, what a way to die. They were digging right behind Hillside Avenue, that area there. That's where they were last digging that I knew, you know. Used to go ice skating down there too all the time. And in high school, we used to walk right around the rim of that pit to go home through Pulaski Avenue. We'd get out of high school and walk through the clay banks to Pulaski Avenue and come down Pulaski Avenue, you know. Did that for years. Now when I ride through there, I just shake my head. Certain things that happened in this town that I would never believe. Excuse me. And one was when I put Kennedy Park there. I says, that's all clay and water. I'm going to make a park out of it. And it worked. And the other one was when I made that shopping center. Because I remember going in there with the police car, and it was all clay and mud and that. You think it would have sunk, but they sunk a lot of pilings to put that shopping center in there, and I'm amazed that it never went under.
Which shopping center? Where ShopRite is?
Where ShopRite is, yeah. That was just a part of that clay bank. It was a big clay bank.
Just
big a pit. And
pit.
there was a small place back there. And the guy that worked there, I still remember his name, Lou Kamashinsky. He was like in charge of the clay bank. And they had a shack there that he stayed in. And they didn't have many people working there at that time. There were maybe half a dozen or so that I can remember. And it was just a dirt road going back in. Because I remember when I first went on the police force, some guy went with his girlfriend back there. And he got stuck. And he had to walk all the way out. There was no cell phone, so we had to go all the way to a phone booth. He called. He waited on the road, and I got there, so I'm stuck back there. So I start going, and I said, I can't go. I said, I'm going to get stuck. He said, get me a record. So I'll never forget, I called the record. At that time, they sent records from Shirley's headquarters. They dispatched them in. They sent Henry Albert, who owned the garage up at the top of Washington Road. And he came with his record, and he pulled up, and the kids started laughing, and I had to kind of cackle myself because Henry Albert had a record that had the old crank. The kid says, he ain't never going to get me out. I said, I can't help it. I said, they got a list. He's the guy. So he went, and he drove down there with the darn wrecker, and he hand cranked the kid out with the car. And he got out with the car, and the kid stood there, and he said to me, I didn't ever believe it. He said, I didn't see it. But he had that record for years and years, and that's what he towed cars with, It was something that you can't, there was a clay bank in Lower Sayreville off Horseshoe Road there, too, that was part of Fisher's property. And in there, they used a truck. I worked there for a couple of weeks, too, about a couple of months, I guess. They had a truck that was like a 1926 Mack truck that they still used to cart sand in it around. And I used to laugh because, it was like an antique then, and they still kept it running. And Fisher's was antiquated, and where the office building was off River Road, where that barrel factory is on River, you know where the barrel factory is? Mm-hmm. That used to be a barn. And when I was a kid, they had horses there. This is going back in the 40s, probably middle 40s, And I believe the barn was originally for the mules that Fisher's used to move the bricks that they kept the mules there, and that's where the mules came from. Right down maybe 500 yards from there, and less than that maybe, there was the machine shop, and there was the office building for Fisher's, and next to there was a White House, and they owned that, but they rented that out. And to go into that machine shop was something like, even when I was a kid, it took your mind away because everything was belt driven. It was all belts all over the place, and when they ran a machine, the belts would be going right in front of you, and it's, matter of fact, the guy that was in charge there was Mr. Check. He lived on Hillside Avenue. And the Czechs, he was like the supervisor of the machine shop, and that's how I got in there. He used to say, stop down,